The Denver SpiderMan is absolutely terrifying. On October 17th, 1941, Philip Peters was beaten to death in his home. Philip was a retired railroad worker and a musician, father, and husband. He was at home alone at the time because his wife, Helen, was recovering from hip surgery in the hospital, where she had been for the past 5 weeks. During this time, Philip was noticing some strange activity going on in his home. Although he was the only one who was living inside the home, he was hearing someone walking around at night. He also noticed that food was missing. He was sure there had to be an intruder, so he searched his entire home but found nothing. That is until October 17th, 1941, when he heard the noises, so he got up and went downstairs. He saw standing at his refrigerator a tall, lengthy man. A fight broke out between the two men, and Philip would lose his life. Then about an hour later, Philip was found by his neighbors. They called police, and police were stumped to what happened. There was no sign of an intruder, he had no enemies, and they had no idea how this happened. Helen, Philip's now widow, returned to the home, where she was surprised to be hearing noises and also noticing that food was going missing. She was convinced that the house was haunted. And for this reason, Helen decided to move away, and the house would just sit there empty. However, the neighbors would still see somebody walking around in the house. They would smell odd smells and hear noises coming from the empty home. They alerted police, and police decided that they were going to stake out the home, especially since Philip's murder was still unsolved. This is when police see for themselves the person walking around in the home. They go into the home and chase after the man who was making his way into the attic from a very, very small hole in the ceiling. This hole was noticed in the initial search of the home after Philip's murder, but they assumed that no person could get through the hole, so they didn't bother looking up in the attic. If they did, they would have found Theodore Cooney's in the attic, where he had been living for months. He would come down at night when Philip was sleeping and eat some food and then go back up. And the attic was tiny, and he had been collecting his own waste in containers. Apparently, Theodore and Philip were acquaintances through the music scene. Theodore had gone to Philip's house to ask him if he could have some food. However, Philip wasn't there. He was at the hospital with Helen. When Theodore realized that Philip was not there, he just let himself into their home. He got some food and then decided to stay. Theodore was convicted and charged with the murder of Philip Peters and died in prison in 1967 at the age of 84.